Hello! This is a Honda Shadow VT1100 C motor. C25, in fact, actually. Okay, you can't see that. I've just changed the cam chains, bored out the cylinders, put in oversized pistons, and now I'm about to reassemble the valve covers on this 2005 or 6 or 7 machine. I'm not sure what year it is. Now I'm going away for a week and I need to make this video to remind me how to reinstall the valve covers. It's not a matter of just screwing them back together as far as I understand. Over to my workbench. Okay, so this is the valve cover that goes on the rear cylinder. Pretty much the same as the front cylinder. So far I have removed the hex bolts that go here and here, and I have inserted a 6mm bolt into the rocker arm shaft. According to the manual, it tells you to screw in a 6mm bolt and pull out the shaft. Now I'm a bit confused to how any of this works, so I had to carefully dismantle it and put it all back together bit by bit in a bit to understand what's going on. The problem is, initially, these little guys, these are hydraulic tappets, or actually I think more accurately they're called hydraulic lash adjusters, meaning because these things are present and if they work, you don't have to adjust your valves. These guys are hydraulic and they adjust your valves continuously all the time with no manual input whatsoever. Now, they go, there's one for each valve. There are 2 intakes valves and 1 exhaust valve. So there's 1 hydraulic tappet for the exhaust valve, 1 for each of the 2 different intake valves. They go in like so. Maybe there'll be a shim sitting right here. That's a different story, I'll get to that later. So right now I have 2 of these. Well, I have 3, but there's 2. Here's the difference in them. Let's compress each one. And I don't know if you can see that, but that compresses all the way to the bottom. You can even see a little bit of oil bubbling out that hole. This one doesn't. According to the book, oops, the manual, I should have about 2mm of play there, and that's exactly what this one does have. The other, however, does not have that. It is way more than that. So, to take a tub of kerosene, according to the wonderful internet, and bleed the thing. Now you can see that bubbled. I'm taking a little drill bit. This is a 2.51 or something, whatever, a piece of metal that fits. Put it into the hole and pump. If it hasn't happened already, bubbles come out, and even old oil. Doesn't take much. I'm putting little or no effort into this. I'm hardly even hitting the bottom of it. To do this a few times. Actually, I should compress that while it's in here. Normally I compress that with one hand and pump with the other, but I'm holding the camera, so what you're supposed to do, I think, is compress it a bunch of times when it's in there in order to fill the thing with oil. In this case, kerosene, just because it's very light. Okay, now it's getting really stiff. With 2 hands, you fill that up and they're ready to be replaced. But what are these things and what exactly do they do? Now, that is a question that the internet isn't able to answer, I don't think, from what I can find. That brings us to this. The camshaft interacts with these, as usual. You expect that. You're probably well familiar with that if you're at this stage into your rebuild. These followers for the intake. This one is the exhaust. Just for the sake of it, I've already removed that one. It's sitting there loose. How do these things interact with that? If you note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this. Okay, that turns. And you can see in the background the follower, or whatever the shaft is moving. These guys, these tappets, go in here, but they do have a direct connection to this valve. These guys are connected to this even though they're beside it. Oil runs in this passage, fills those things up, and pushes on the shaft inside this. I'll show you. Let's take this guy out. Okay. When this is sitting in the valve cover head, it sits at an angle like this. Not like that, like this. And as these guys fill up, they become pretty stiff, very rigid, and don't compress. So if I was to push one right down in there, it would actually bang into this right there, and it would push it around like so. When the oil is released, there's a tensioner on the bottom that pushes up and pushes it back like that. Full of oil, empty. Full of oil, empty. What's actually happening is the whole camshaft is or the whole rocker arm shaft is actually moving. If you rotate this, damn it, it's hard to do this with one hand. I'll put this back in for a second. You start to see why and how this works. Focus. The tappet pushes down and it moves the valve. Tappet goes up and it moves the valve. See that action? That's how this works. Just as an example, I'll try and put that marker back in for a second. If I can do this with one hand, bear with me. Okay. I'll hold that in place. Alright, I'm going to twist clockwise. Now you can see it moving. Now in real life, I'm twisting this round, turn after turn after turn. In real life, the tappet only allows a small amount of movement, or this adjuster only allows a small amount of movement. It's very small, about that. But that is more than enough to reduce lash and close the gap between this follower and the lobe on the camshaft. One final thing on the back, this guy is called the assist spring and assist shaft. That slots in the back from the top of the head and simply just acts as a tensioner to push this thing back into position after the after the adjuster relaxes and drains of oil. So I hope that makes some sense. I'm going to use this video as an example of how to reinstall this thing once I come back from being away for a week. So I hope I actually look at this video and remember what the hell I'm talking about.